Hey, welcome to the Hemi-Sync podcast. My guest today is David Young. David has 25 plus years of experience working with leaders across many sectors in Asia, Europe, and the US. He started his career at a management consultancy and moved to human resources, where he is specialized in leadership and executive development. He holds a master's degree in humanities, a bachelor's in engineering, and has undertaken postgraduate studies in analytical and developmental psychology. More recently, David has collaborated with HemiSync on developing a series of exercises designed to address some of the most common issues and problems faced in business, as well as in daily living. They are available in the DPY Business Coaching app in the Apple App Store, as well as in album form on the HemiSync website. So that's hemisync.com. Before we get into it though, please be sure to sign up for our email list at hemisync.com so that you don't miss future episodes. Also, be sure to follow us on social media. Generally, that's at HemiSync Life. On Twitter, I'm also at Garrett H. Stevens. And lastly, if you'd like to support this particular show while getting some great bargains on HemiSync products and services, be sure to check out our Patreon page. Here's David Young. So, David, thank you for joining us. Pleasure to have you on the show. Maybe to start, can you please tell us a bit about your background, how you got into business and performance coaching?
Sure, and thanks for inviting me, Garrett. So I left Cornell. I studied for my master's in the States, and I knew I wanted to be in business. And so I got my initial training in the management consultancy firms. It's a number of the big, well-known brands. And I was 11 years training on multinationals around the world, delivering performance improvement and transformation programs. And the life of a management consultant was not really for me. So I went into HR and really specialized there for the next 11 years in leadership and executive development. So taking those performance elements from consultancy and then using them in line organizations. So I did a role for the British government in the civil service over here. And then I moved into a multinational for 8 years where I wrote the leadership curriculum for the company from end to end. So they needed something digital and they needed something refreshed. To energize an organization of about 100,000 people around the world. And so I spent my time doing that before working for myself. And that's been the last 5 years, really taking the learning from that whole journey of what's now 27 years and using it for the benefit of clients today.
Mm-hmm. And would you care to talk about some of the clients that you've worked with? It's a very impressive list. I don't know how comfortable you are sharing that.
Well, we can absolutely talk about the nature and the type of business. They're almost all household names, so people would know them. And typically it is multinationals, so working across the world, but also other complex organizations. So particularly in the UK and healthcare type organizations, they can be large and complex, but they're just based within the UK. These organizations are multi-geography. So I work in Asia, across all of Europe, and then the Americas. And the industries are, so if we go through it, it would be finance, IT, telecoms, healthcare, fashion, and brewing. Now, brewing I quite enjoy because there's benefits to being a client of theirs. They actually, in my brewing client, in the team meeting rooms, they have a bar set up where at the end of a meeting, you can actually pull a pint of their product, which is very different to when I've been working in fashion, because I walk into what's like a large Italian style fashion warehouse. There's Murano glass chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. It's like a football stadium inside with this customer service hub that they've got. And I look like the handyman. There are all the fashionistas in there. And I mean, they are just so on brand, so on message. It's incredible to work, whether it's for a brewer, for a technology company, or for a big global fashion brand, really just helping them solve some of the same problems. And it's within each of those businesses, it's working with individual leaders, with teams in those organizations, normally executive teams, and normally where there's a lot at risk. And they need a rapid turnaround in the performance of individuals or teams. And then also it can be across whole organizations. So as well as being an HR director in a multinational, writing a whole leadership curriculum for them and their coaching curriculum, I've done it for clients as well, working across Europe and Asia, helping them transform how they deliver their services. And so at the individual level, see, there's so one client I've had for 5 years. He was, when we started, he was a vice president. He got promoted to president, much more tricky job, which he aced. And then he's now the chief operating officer in one of these multinationals that are my clients. With a team, it's actually my brewing client. They've had a series of 2 CIOs in the last 5 years, and I've supported both of them, both individually, the team that runs all the technology for that business, and then culture change in the IT function. So it's quite broad and varied, but it's all very commercial and business performance focused, this kind of work.
So these are big multinational household names working with individuals in very senior positions that are making decisions that affect hundreds, if not thousands, or even tens of thousands of employees.
Sure. We'll keep keeping client confidentiality as part of the coach's role. So, but I can talk in general terms. So there was the finance director of a multinational I was coaching, and there was fraud in the Italian business. And there were a number of things that were criminal in terms of the fraud. And when this was discovered, he really held the responsibility about sorting this out. It was a tremendous weight on him. And the day they announced to the stock market that this had gone on inside the Italian business, there was a drop of the share price of 20% in one morning. It removed billions in terms of value from this one company. Another business I worked with, they'd actually had their shares suspended from the stock exchange because they failed to submit their accounts. Now you'd think, well, as a coach, I don't have a lot to do with accountancy, but human behavior and human performance, absolutely. And in that finance team, they weren't getting the basics right for whatever reason, and to have your shares suspended, it's reputation affecting. So individual and team performance absolutely has a huge knock-on impact to businesses, especially when there's a lot at stake. And if it's 20% of the share price, or if it's shares being suspended, then you want to get ahead of that, and you want to invest in coaching for people so they can be better versions of themselves. And in all of the situations I work in, if people can show up as their best selves, they give themselves the best chance, the best odds of managing the situation well. You can't stop bad things from happening, but you can improve the odds of you facing into it successfully.
Gotcha. And so folks that are kind of regular listeners of the show are probably wondering what this has to do with, consciousness or the topics that I, frequently talk about on here, but we're going to get to that right now. So tell me about how you became interested in Hemi-Sync, or how you found us.
Sure. So I've had the same mentor for over 20 years. He's now retired. He was a coach and a psychotherapist. And back in 1992, he went on a training program at the Monroe Institute. He worked for an American coaching and consulting business, and the leader of that business said, I want to develop super coaches, and there's something about what the Monroe Institute is doing that has some insight for us. So she got the coaches from around the world to turn up in Virginia, and I think it was probably one of the first of one of their executive programs that they did. And best describe it as in the week he was there and he had the headphones on, he did the whole Hemi-Sync thing. He had an experience of stillness and it was profound for him. And it took him decades to really work out what that experience meant to him. Oh. And he and I had talked many times, but he'd become aware that you were doing some work in Hemi-Sync on upgrading the product portfolio and the look and the feel, and you develop an app. And it was in August 2020. He said to me, David, why don't you go and check them out? Because when I went in 1992, we didn't know how to integrate it. Yeah. But with, nearly 30 years on from that now, we have a better understanding of psychology. We have a better understanding of technology. And he said, I think there may be something in it. So in August 2020, I signed up to your app. I started buying some of your products, and the rest is history.
Excellent. And so for those of you that don't know, David and I, Hemi-Sync and David, we are working on this new app that is, well, at the time of this recording, about to be released in the App Store, Apple's App Store. And so, David, tell us a bit about it. How did you kind of come to have this brainchild? How do you think business and performance coaching work with Hemi-Sync, and what specifically is on this new app?
Sure. So I think that you are one of the best kept secrets in the professional development world, and you're kind of your brand and your current client sets sort of obscures you from the commercial world, because many people in the commercial world wouldn't look at you in the same way they look at a normal learning and development supplier, because they go, I'm not they kind of go, oh, I'm not sure there's a fit. But it's just because you're very focused on your market segment. And when I look at you, the fact that you're focused on your market segment is neither here nor there. That's great. You do it really well. What I began to see was the technology that sits underneath what you do is really quite something. And so part of the reason for developing this app was, as I started to experiment with it, I experienced the Hemi-Sync technology. Firstly, what it does is it creates a sense of silence. So you are fully awake, but your thoughts and your feelings are quiet. It's as if in a normal person, if you're like me, your thoughts and your feelings can be a 10 out of 10 the whole time you're awake. But when you listen to Hemi-Sync, it starts dialing that number down, and you can get it all the way down to a number 1, where they're just barely there in the background. And when you have that experience of silence, you then get this experience of what it's like to be still. And to be still, the best way to explain it for me is that you've just got a heightened level of awareness, not a normal, I'm aware and vigilant about what's going on around me, but you have this experience of awareness that is really quite valuable. And how I would explain it is, it's almost as if you're able to move your ego and all the things you think about yourself to one side, and you're able to work more with your intuitive insights. And insights are things that come from the unconscious. Otherwise, it's knowledge. So an insight, by definition, comes from outside of our awareness. And so you've got technology that allows people to relax, to stay alert and awake, while busy thoughts and feelings quieten down, and they're able to access insight from the unconscious. That's what good coaches do. And you've got technology that does it. So why wouldn't you want to put it into an app and just give people access to it? So, it's a completely different market to your home market that you've been in. And I think that the tech is great. And if we pointed at a different market segment, which is multinationals and the corporate market, let's see what's possible. But if people are able to create more silence in the way in which they are from day to day in their head, so less busy thoughts. This quality of awareness that I'll say comes from a sense of stillness inside. You get to this kind of place of flow.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it was back in 1974, there was a chap called Tim Galway. He was an American, and he wrote the book called In a Game of Tennis. Don't know if you've read it, but it's
I have. It's an excellent book. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the foundation.
I'm a tennis player, so yeah.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
a lot of people have improved their tennis game.
Yeah.
By using the Tim Galway kind of approach, and a lot of executive coaching is based on that. And largely, it's silence, stillness, and then able to go with the insight that comes from that. Now, Tim Galway was famous for taking that on and helping create the executive coaching industry. But do you know, executive coaches, they're not very good with tech. So they tend to avoid it. Whereas with technology like HemiSync's got, I think coaches could embrace it.
Yeah. Because
those qualities of improving intuitive insight, it could nudge individuals and teams and whole organizations. And that's what the app is about.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 3 sections on the app. Very few people will have come across your sort of technology before. So there's an instructions, and people won't know that they need to listen with headphones, nice quality headphones, to really get the benefit from it. Mm-hmm. And I've really benefited from your help in explaining how that technology works. And then there are, I've started just with 6 very common problems that people face, whether you're in business or just in life. 6 problems that people face that come up repetitively again and again. They happen thousands of times in people's lives. Anything from we get triggered by stress, to we doubt ourselves, to what happens when other people block our way. What happens when we procrastinate, and how do we overcome that? How do we talk about performance with people and have a challenging conversation? And actually, how do we deal with difficult people? One comes up a lot.
Yeah.
And so I've working with one of my associates, Christopher Hawke. He's an analytical psychologist. We've really gone into these 6 subjects and created some learning tracks for people. So they have there's two types of learning track. There's one that's 10 minutes, where I will guide people on each of these subjects, and so they get 10 minutes of deep relaxation with your Hemi-Sync frequencies, and questions to focus on so they can find their answers. They can start to get insight from the unconscious. There's then 10 minutes is very short. It's very, in my world, things are done at great pace.
Yes.
So 10 minutes is actually quite a long time.
Yes.
And many executives will really benefit just from, I've been triggered, I want to reset myself, give me 10 minutes, I'll put my headphones in, go for it. That will work very well. And so many of the executives I work with, they're super busy, they're not used to being silent. 10 minutes is about the right level of time for them. Mm-hmm. But for those who are, we've got these 20-minute tracks where it's more of a free flow, and you can guide yourself on, how do I reset myself now I've been triggered? And that's really where the technology you've got that helps people to relax, helps people to, and it's fascinating because when you focus on the vibrations, the noise in your mind, the thoughts and the feelings, they do dial down in volume.
Yeah.
And so on those 20-minute tracks, people will find that they get more experience of silence. And that's the second part. So there's the introduction, there's the coaching tracks, and then there's the mixer desk, which we borrowed from your other app,
mm-hmm.
The HemiSync app.
Unlimited. Yeah.
And it's for those execs who just want the HemiSync frequencies and they want to choose their own sound and mix it with it. They can be sitting at their desk, plug it in, and then just, if they had the focus and concentration frequency you've got, mm-hmm. and they could they could have their favorite sound on. So I like your river sound. So I would put that on, set it all up, and then you can get on with your emails or you can write a report, and you'll notice that there is a nudge in terms of your performance effectiveness because you're doing so from a relaxed yet focused place.
Yep.
So for me, it's a no-brainer to allow my clients to start to access this, and I've shared some of it with them.
Excellent. So all of our sounds are the real thing, by the way. So for instance, with the river sound, somebody actually went out to a river with a mic and recorded that, and they're all like that.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So good. So you and I have both spent a lot of time in the business world and been around, high performing executives and other senior types that for whom it might not be readily apparent why they need stillness, why they need to slow down, why they need to relax. They're thinking, I need to be on all the time. Like I need my head full of all these problems that I'm working on. And you kind of address this on your website where you talk about developing the subtle, implicit, and spontaneous parts of you that lead to a flow of best performances every day. Can you maybe just expand a little bit on that, perhaps for someone that's listening right now and is more of this kind of conventional mindset, doesn't quite get it yet?
Yeah. So I get a lot of executives talk to me about this because they say, I need to just be on. I just got power and make it happen and get it done. And I'm like, well, good. So that level of attitude could well get you into the 100-meter finals at the Olympics. And you may even get the bronze. You definitely won't get the gold, because the difference between a bronze medal performance and a winning gold medal performance is relaxed and focused concentration.
Right.
We know when the athletes get to the starting blocks, they are focusing on making sure tension is released from their muscles and from their body, that they are focused just on their goal, and that there is an inner stillness or silence inside that allows them to enter into a flow of how they perform. Michael Jordan, in his biography, he talked about some of his winning performances on the basketball court. And he talked about how when he got into this relaxed state of flow, where there was this inner silence and stillness, he said it was like the game played through him.
Right.
Now, if in the business world, your performance can play through you, like the best tennis players, like the best golfers, like the best basketball players, if it's possible to allow that to happen because of the state you're in, then there's something worth looking at.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about is a nudge in your performance. So if there's, it can be quite a significant performance gain from the clients I've been working with. But if I said over a large population, somewhere between 1 to 5% performance improvement over a large multinational would be possible. That would come simply from people bringing relaxed, focused concentration to their work. Now, it's not a huge performance gain, but that nudge over a large group of people makes a difference to the bottom line. And that's what business people are interested in.
Yes, absolutely. And right. So you bring up kind of the characteristics of a flow state. And so like my take on the flow state is it occurs when you have just the right amount of relaxation and concentration. It sounds like you concur with that.
Absolutely. It's what the difficulty is, and for most execs will be, they'll relax and they'll go to sleep. And it happened to me when I've a confession now is that I have since August 2020, I've put in probably about 4,000 hours of HemiSync tones.
Wow.
I bought myself some of those sleep phones, and so I just have the tones on at night, and they help me sleep better as well. Which I find I hadn't expected that benefit, but that's been that's actually affected health and well-being in general.
Right.
But using it for that long, you get past the tiredness piece where you just fall asleep every time you listen to them. And so many executives are starved of sleep.
Yes.
They don't get 8 hours.
So that's an important point. So sleep might be what they experience initially, at least, because that's what they need. And so the flow state is really kind of balancing on a knife's edge between relaxation and concentration. People that have been using HemiSync for a long time, they're typically trying to induce, whether they're aware of it or not, they're trying to induce a hypnagogic or hypnopompic state, the state going into or out of sleep. And so that's kind of a tension between, sleeping state and wakefulness, where your body is relaxed, but your mind is awake and alert. And that is also a knife's edge, but it's a different knife's edge. And so right here, we're trying to get between relaxation and concentration.
Yeah, and when I've noticed that execs are have the opportunity to be well rested.
Yep.
One, they get more from the HemiSync technology, but two, they get more from their performance.
Mm-hmm.
There's no high performing athlete out there that doesn't focus on rest, health and well-being, nutrition, all the things that really contribute to the difference between a bronze medal. You've made it all the way to the Olympics. Why settle for the bronze when the gold is possible? And we will be nudging your performance to get to that gold using some of the HemiSync technology. So it's with the clients I've tried it with already, some of them have already experienced this relaxed state of flow. And these are people with really stressful roles. Someone said to me, one of the people I work with in a telco, he said to me, I go into one of the board meetings, and it's like drinking from a fire hydrant of actions, and I come out with 1,000 actions.
Yeah.
And so that's that level of intensity a lot of people may not experience, but when you've got that much that you need to deal with, there's that much going on, you're nudging your performance in terms of, can you bring a relaxed, focused mindset to the challenges you have? One, in actually dealing with 1,000 actions is nothing compared to how do you change the mindset and behaviors of, in his particular unit, there's 15,000 people. So how do you change the minds of 15,000? That's his biggest challenge. And actually, he's not going to do it if he's tired and cranky.
Yeah.
And not been focusing on what are these little nudges that are going to make the biggest difference to my performance and then the performance of our business.
Right. And so I'm curious, these 6 common business issues or problems that we're addressing in this app, would you say there's a common thread that runs through all of these?
There is. It's a common thread that runs through life, which is everyone I know, this requires no training whatsoever. Everyone just does it. They take things personally and they make faulty assumptions. And you don't need to go to school to learn this stuff. It's just it's hardwired into us. And a lot of the time, through all of these issues, whether it's self-doubt, whether it's someone procrastinating, or whether someone's got to deal with a really difficult person, very often when we get underneath, what happens if you don't take things personally here? And what happens if we actually don't make any assumptions? So we suspend our judgments and evaluations of others. That is more than 50% of solving these problems. And in the coaching tracks, we cover those issues for people.
And you also emphasize the importance of repetition. How many reps are we talking about?
Well, so you like to play tennis.
I do.
So if you want to serve an ace in a match that matters to you, how many times do you have to practice before you feel, I've got this, I'm going to serve an ace?
If you're learning a new serve, I'd say thousands. Okay.
So how many times in a life do we get triggered by a stressful situation?
How many minutes are in a day?
Yeah. So the opportunity is for the things that happen regularly and repetitively for us to bring a different way of thinking about them and a different way of behaving towards them. And so to have when you're triggered, one of the optimal things to do is to have a neutral mindset, to look at it rather than someone's right or wrong, to look at the situation without any judgment and as a neutral observer looking in and seeing what this is really all about. And when you do that, it's the thing that improves your performance as you reset yourself and then move back into your day. Who wants to hold on to their crankiness for longer than they need to?
Right.
No, we all get cranky, but those who can reset and refocus, and the app helps people to do it in 10 minutes. And I know, as a business coach, I get triggered just as much as anyone else.
Oh.
And once you're really, really good with the app, actually you get to the point of you actually reset yourself in the moment. So the practices help you to be able to do it for yourself. And then you use the app for different things. So I would use a lot of the mixer desk a lot more because it allows for deeper periods of reflection that are really useful for my clients and for my business.
And so we've got this app priced at 99 cents a month or $9.99 per year US. David, just for context, what is your hourly rate?
So I charge $2,000 US an hour, and clients get value for that because the stakes are really high. So the value equation here is for an hour of my time normally, we could get to 2,000 subscribers. And that can change the game. It can change the number of people that can access the sort of insights that normally would be reserved only if you carried a portfolio at work that carried a lot of risk.
A C-level title, basically. Like, this is coaching that a C-level executive would get, and we're trying to get it out to more and more people for practical application in their daily living.
Yeah, so absolutely. But what I've also learned from thousands of hours working with all of these different executives is the problems don't vary by your grade in an organization.
Right.
We're all human. We all face many of the same challenges repetitively over and over again. The context is different. You might have a share price riding on your performance versus actually it might be a conversation with a colleague that you have, the thing that's right. That's the issue where you need to perform at your best. So they can both, it could be a conversation between two board members, or it could be a conversation between two colleagues at the front line. The issues could be the same, even though their portfolios are different and their level in the organization is different. And so this sort of thinking and this technology that you've got with HemiSync, it could benefit people whatever their level in organizations and whatever their role. And that's what I'm finding when I'm working with clients. I did a test because we recorded a lot of this stuff in the autumn of 2021.
That's right.
And I piloted it. I had a brewing client over in Denmark, and there were 14 people from more than 10 different countries. And there was a lot of tension that needed to be resolved on the team. And we used the 10-minute tracks with the whole team. And what would happen is they were doing some feedback for one another. So I'd say, right, we have one member of the team would go out of the room and they would put on the headphones and they'd listen to the track, which was how do I reset myself when I've been triggered by a stressful situation? And they knew in the room that their colleagues were all talking about them, giving feedback on them. So they were feeling a bit stressed. And they had to reset themselves and then come back in and hear the feedback from their colleagues. And their colleagues had to practice giving feedback. Now, everyone in that room went out and used the HemiSync, and everyone practiced giving feedback to their colleagues as well. And it was 12 out of 14 of the clients I worked with that day said the Hemi-Sync technology had a significant effect on them relaxing, focusing, and engaging with the conversation they needed to engage with. 2 of them said it's nice, but they were neutral about it. They could take it or leave it. But 12 out of 14, and we had 10 different nationalities in that room. So that gives you a taster into what might be possible. And so we'll see when we launch this app and when we start inviting clients to engage with it more.
That's a really good real-time test. I think we both look forward to testing it with a larger audience very shortly. David, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for building this with us. If you guys like this, please share it up, give us a like, or leave a comment, and we'll try to get back to you. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.